This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop.
Got it.
Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy.
Been a long education.
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
And it's Free for All Friday, my friends. Thanks for stepping in, and thanks for choosing the Steve Gruber Show for your place to get your information to start the day. At the State House in Lansing, it starts on a different note today. Todd Courser and Cindy Gamrett are gone from the body. It took 14 hours, a couple of failed votes, and a lot of drama, frankly. But then Todd Courser this morning, just about 3 hours ago, not quite even, did the unexpected. He resigned at 3:12 in the morning. 3:12 in the morning, Todd Courser resigned. And only a couple of hours ago, in the middle of the night, State Rep Cindy Gamrett was expelled on a vote of 91-12. This brings to an end a controversial sex and cover-up scandal that has rocked Lansing for the last several weeks. Courser made the following comment. I felt it was the appropriate thing to do. I put everybody through a whole bunch, my family, constituents, and the people in this room. You go 14, 15 hours later, they would have been doing a third vote. I felt they were just going to go until they got the answer they wanted. His resignation letter wasn't much. I hereby tender my resignation from the Michigan House of Representatives effective immediately. Has been an hour serving with the dedicated members of the staff of the House of Representatives. Gamrett decided to stick it out and asked her colleagues for censure rather than expulsion. I firmly believe in restoration and redemption. She said, I've done everything I can to redeem this situation, and I am sincerely sorry for what this has caused. I still believe my actions warrant censure, not expulsion. Her colleagues disagreed, voting 91-12 to expel her. 5 Democrats declining to vote on the matter. She is only the 5th person in Michigan history to be removed from the body. Both Courser after his resignation and then Gamrett after the vote were immediately escorted from the building by Capitol Police. So that's how we start the day here. Big day here on the program, though. Plenty of reason to get involved and plenty of reason to call. And no, we don't have to talk about this going forward. Todd Courser and Cindy Gamrett are just footnotes in history with the Tawdry affair that exploded in their face. Coming up here in a little bit, we will have an exclusive interview with Carly Fiorina, candidate for President of the United States, whose poll numbers are rising dramatically, who we will sit down and talk to in person in a week on Mackinac Island at the Republican Leadership Conference. Carly Fiorina will be joining us at the bottom of the hour here, just about 20 minutes or so. She'll be joining us for an interview that you don't want to miss. She's going to be with us for a half an hour. If you didn't know, Carly Fiorina is now running 3rd in most national polls behind Donald Trump and Ben Carson. Trump and Carson now going at each other. We're going to skip some of that nonsense, some of that nastiness. We'll skip some of that nastiness and just talk to her about the issues and the things that matter. That'll be our approach for the day. Also today, Bill Huizenga, Congressman Huizenga from Holland on the Iran deal. Liz Peek, one of my favorites when it comes to looking at the truth. And a whole lot more, of course. Tomorrow, the big game in East Lansing. We might take a moment and talk about that. The big game with Michigan State and Oregon. First battle of top 10 teams in Spartan Stadium since 1966. So, you know, there you have it. And by the way, let's start back with politics now. If we're going to talk Republican politics in a moment, maybe we should start with some Democratic politics as well. Hillary Clinton's frontrunner status. Maybe it's not frontrunner status anymore. Just a few days after a New Hampshire poll once again showed Hillary Clinton slipping behind Bernie Sanders in the vital early primary state, a fresh survey shows the Vermont senator is edging ahead of her in Iowa as well, but just by a bit, but a bit is a bit. The Quinnipiac University poll shows Sanders leading Clinton 41-40, and if he's leading in Iowa and he's leading in New Hampshire, wouldn't Bernie Sanders be considered the front runner? Now, these results are well within the margin of error and represent a virtual tie in the first-in-the-nation caucus state, but together the polling in New Hampshire and Iowa indicates Clinton's front-runner status is now, well, I don't know, maybe not accurate anymore. And as far as Bernie Sanders goes, his press secretary, Lila Chaikin, said people and Iowans are responding to a message based on issues. The more people know about Bernie, the more they like him. Clinton campaign stressing they always thought this would be a close race. No, they didn't. And that's a nonsensical answer. The Clintons always thought this would be a cakewalk. And all of this on 9/11, the 14th anniversary. Where were you? Where were you when this all happened 14 years ago? I know exactly where I was. We'll talk about that in just a moment. And you look at all this petty politics. You know, things going on with Todd Corser and Cindy Gamrett. The arguments between Donald Trump and Ben Carson, and Donald Trump in effect saying Carly Fiorina is too ugly to be president. That's what I take from it. And you think, how far have we gone since the 11th of September 2001? A day when we all stood together. A day when we all stood together because we understood the importance of the day and the significance of what had happened. We stood together as Americans. We'll talk about that, like I said, in just a moment. What are your thoughts? Where were you? 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966. The number to call. It's Free for All Friday. I encourage your conversation and encourage you to share your common sense views. I'm Steve Gruber. This is The Steve Gruber Show.
The Steve Gruber Show. American values with Midwestern common sense.
Where were you when the world stopped turning on that September day? Were you in the yard with your wife and children, or working on some stage in L.A.? Did you stand there in shock at the sight of that black smoke rising against that blue sky? Did you shout out in anger and fear for your neighbor, or did you just sit down and cry? Did you weep for the children who lost their dear loved ones, and pray for the ones who don't know? Did you rejoice for the people who walked from the rubble and sobbed for the ones left below? Did you burst out with pride for the red, white, and blue, and the heroes who died just doing what they do? Did you look up to heaven for some kind of answer, and look at yourself and what really matters? I'm just a singer of simple songs. I'm not a real political man. I watch CNN, but I'm not sure I can tell you the difference in Iraq and Iran. But I know Jesus and I talk to God, and I remember this from when I was young. Faith, hope, and love are some good things He gave us, and the greatest is love.
I was bringing Mom back from dentist's office that
When
day.
the world stopped turning on that September day.
And I had the radio off, which wasn't normal because I was talking to her, and ran her off to a dentist appointment, nothing too serious. And it must have been, it was an early appointment, so we were back because I watched the second plane hit the World Trade Center live and realized something was terribly wrong. And so where were you? And where have we come as a country in 14 years? We went to war in Iraq and Afghanistan, something many of us come to say was not a particularly great idea. The lives lost overseas and the treasure squandered on poor intel and going after Saddam Hussein, though he had nothing to do with the attacks on 9/11. Years later, Osama bin Laden being killed in his hideout. But it makes you wonder, are we better off today, or have we not learned much of anything? Democrats and Republicans are more divided than ever. We're $18 trillion in debt and growing. And terrorism, well, for a while there, I thought we were going very much in the right direction. You probably did too. But as of late, I don't know that we're going the right direction anymore. It seems we don't know who we are anymore, oftentimes. You see, America needs a strong presence on the world stage. Frankly, the world needs America. And you look at what's going on with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, the threats that are being leveled, and all the things that are going on. And you have to wonder, what did we learn that day? Do we even teach our children? I mean, think about this. Kids that are teenagers now, 16, 17 years old, they don't remember 9/11. Kids graduating from high school this year, next year, graduating from high school, don't remember that awful sick feeling in the pit of your stomach when you watch those things happen. A really good friend of mine, Tom Knapp, who has since passed away, was an exhibition shooter for Benelli USA. He was a exhibition shotgun shooter. And one of the most patriotic people I'd ever met. He called me that day sobbing. And his emotions were torn between anger and sadness, grief, and revenge. And I think maybe that was true for all of us. I went to the hardware store that day in Perry, Michigan, and bought an American flag to hang outside of our office. And yet on the anniversary of 9/11, you still sit back and you wonder, how far have we really come? Something to ponder today, and the hotline will remain open throughout the day. 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. And one bit of news here before we go to the break, and then Carly Fiorina will join me. The 22-year-old man who police say intentionally ran over a Lansing firefighter doing charity work Wednesday afternoon has been identified as Grant Jacob Taylor. Police say Taylor got into a verbal altercation with 35-year-old Dennis Rodman, a 7-year veteran of the Lansing Fire Department, and moments later ran him over with his pickup truck on the city's south side. Rodman, as you know by now, was in the street about 3:40 in the afternoon collecting money for a muscular dystrophy association fundraiser when he was struck. He was pronounced dead a short time later at a local hospital. Taylor formally charged yesterday with murder, failing to stop at the scene of a personal injury accident causing death, and 2 counts of third-degree fleeing and looting. He was denied bond in the case. It's Free for All Friday. Your calls are encouraged. 888-900-9966. When we come back, presidential candidate Carly Fiorina leading most of her other Republican colleagues. We'll talk to her why that is and what her thoughts are about being president of the United States.